Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? Quite a few things on the agenda. Top of the order here is, it turns out that I'm not sure if this is quite the right word, the charter for the Aether project said that we would use the developer certificate. What's the O stand for? DCO.
I think it's Developer Certificate of Origin.
Of origin, right, thank you, certificate of origin, instead of their CLA mechanism. It's what, I was unaware of that. It was what was negotiated with LF, and it sounds like it's LF's preference, and it seems perfectly fine, so. And it was pretty straightforward for DAF to turn on. And I think at this point, he's turned it on for Open Networking Lab and the OMEC project, but not yet for the ONOS project. Is that right?
No, it is turned on for Open Networking Lab and the Garrett ONOS project. It needs to be set up for GitHub ONOS project and OMEC. I'll finish those today.
But OMEC project was already set up yesterday, so I merged one PR last night. Well, I opened one PR last night. I already got that message that initially it failed. Yeah, OMEC project, yes. And that's what I put actually. That's what I noticed, that this additional thing, and you see the second bullet in there. I added in there because I found out about it probably around like 6 p.m. yesterday or something like that.
Let me double check that. I'm confused.
Yeah, no, it's already there. OMEC project certain.
Well, DCO is installed, but it shouldn't be enabled. Was it required?
That is a good question.
Yeah,
DCO
was installed, but it wasn't required yet, or it shouldn't be.
Okay.
And
so it's required on Open Networking Lab because David and I have been debugging a corner case in it, but it is working. And let me just point you to it. So I think maybe we would want to do something similar to this. I edited the README at the top of the org. Contributions include a developer certificate of origin. So that's just a link to this LF site that explains what that is. And then, although you can also get there from that page, I went ahead and linked the what it is you're technically agreeing to. So this is essentially this, the equivalent of this CLA. And it basically says you have the right to do this. Back to, so I would just recommend we do something like that for all three orgs. So if this does then, just to specifically answer Gabriel's question, this does replace the ONF CLA.
It does replace it. I will remove the CLA once the DCO has been required on all repos.
Got it. So for everyone's, I mean, go read the link, but for everyone's information, every single commit needs to have been signed that you agree to the DCO. And you do that with the -S option on your commit.
Duff, would it be kind of like is there a way to add some additional description inside the action itself? Because yesterday it was just showing, DCO and basically nothing else. So, and suddenly that is something that starts showing up in my PRs, right? Is there a way, like, for example, before with the CLA, when somebody that haven't signed the CLA, an Audible automatically put a comment in there saying, you need to sign this CLA and blah, blah, blah. Would it be possible to do something similar in the different repositories such that at least users get a better
aware of it right now, but I'll double check on that.
And Gabriel,
because
Gabriel, you do get an error message if you don't do it right that says required status check DCO is expected.
Yeah, but I mean, if you see the PRs, it only shows fail, but it doesn't show any description what it is about, right?
Yeah,
so
that's in the PR.
I had to go into the details to better understand what it was about, and then why it was failing. So the only thing I'm saying,
yeah, I mean, we should do the best we can here, but on the other hand, you sort of know what a CLA is. This is maybe new terminology, certainly is for me. Oh, the DCO failed. I mean, it should become a fairly standard thing.
Later on, yeah. But for new users or new contributors, that's going to be kind of a surprising thing. And that was what happened to me yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, so one tiny thing that we have control over. Where was it again? Yeah, was putting something like this into the README. And then by clicking this link, then you get the details of how to make it so.
Yeah, but my point, Larry, is primarily that, for new users, that just shows, you see that error when you open a PR, you see that it failed, right? So it's not necessarily that somebody's going to go to the overview of the project to understand what it is. So my only kind of like suggestion was, if it is possible to do something similar to what was done before with the CLA, that as soon as a new contributor contributes something, the bot automatically kind of puts a comment in there. It says, you don't have the CLI signed, so please sign and follow these instructions. So something similar could be done, I guess, with this DCO. Says, it failed. You need to kind of commit your PR using the -S flag.
Yeah, so I agree. So if it's possible, add
Of
more
course.
helpful info about the DCO. So new users
Yeah.
know what to do.
I love. I haven't tripped over it yet, but
And just, one thing we can do is to go fix the org README.
yes, there's no configuration of it. Yeah, I'll look.
Okay, so Dave has an action item there. All right, so I'm starting here with 2 action items from last week, so I'm going to move on. Are there any other questions about the DCO? Okay, moving to the second one.
So Larry, we have a question. I think we have Christian there. So is there a group concept here, or is it always individual?
It's always individual. Is that Gap? Is that right? Michelle, is that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
It's always individual.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, just is it, so for instance, say Ajay puts the file DCO into the repo and then I come along afterwards and I update it, or how does it work with multiple people?
No. So the only thing, Sean, that needs to be done is when you commit something, you gotta do it. You gotta sign it off. Basically, add into your commit to add the -S flag. That's it. But that's something that is not stated in here.
Also, it has to be a comment on the commit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, dash, right, so
Okay.
-S.
Just -S, nothing else.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that you could do, let me go back to here, is familiarize yourself with this. It's a per commit sign off made by a contributor stating that they agree to the terms published here. That's the second link for that particular contribution. When creating the commit with the CLI, it can be achieved by adding the -S option. But if you want to directly edit the comment, then you would add that string to it.
And this is one time, right, Larry?
No, you do this.
No,
The dash
per
S is
commit.
to every commit.
Per commit.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's an extra burden, but it's relatively modest, and this was definitely where LF was was preferring we go.
Okay.
I want to
Yeah,
say
I
there's a
I
config
was
option to
unaware of all
automatically
this
do it,
until
but I
this,
can't find it right
in the
now.
last day. Okay, so last time we decided to set up a new JIRA. The old Aether JIRA is populated with hundreds of tickets from a previous time, back when there was an O&F staff staff of engineers. Now, it may be the case, and AJ, you would maybe know better than anybody on the call last week. Nobody on the call last week had any tickets they knew of in JIRA. So one thing is we are archiving the old one so we can get anything we need to out of it. But DAP is going to set up a new one, and then it's a matter of getting it configured, which we can have a discussion. But my quick and dirty proposal is we have a project for each one of the major activities, and we have a fairly simple workflow. This is as simple as DAP and I could figure out, but open for discussion.
Yeah, it seems simple and good enough. Yeah.
And if we need something more complicated later, we can always add it. So I guess the other piece of this is that we will get some permissions set up so that we have a keeper for each one of the projects, and probably roughly maps onto who currently has commit privileges on the repos or something like that.
The other issue that we'll need to discuss is what fields does the team want to have available to update or inform people on? Description and status are pretty simple, but there's a lot more that you may want. But we do want to have the minimum possible.
Yeah, let me just make sure this is clear. This is a proposal here. We can work on it.
Is there a way to set up can we have an hour discussion with people who are interested or something? I can bring a proposal and have people, tear it apart and put it back together again.
Is anyone interested in participating in that, or is everyone dissatisfied going, set it up simple and we'll modify as necessary? Any strong feelings on it?
No comments from me. Like, I'm okay with anything. Yeah.
Yeah, so Deb, I think, why don't you set it up with your best judgment on keeping, and the general consensus here is to keep it simple and as straightforward as we can.
Okay. I'll get it set up and give a demo on it. Hopefully next week, if that time is available and I can get it finished in time. I'm kind of gated on Atlassian, but that should only take a day or two.
Good, thank you. Okay, third point was also discussed last week, and we didn't have any strong feelings, but I see AJ has chimed in here, so
Yeah, so just probably to give a little bit more context. So we discussed last week about that. I had just a short message exchange with Ajay to know whether he has any opinion on that part. So that's why he added the bullet point in here.
Yeah, I think it would be good if we can rename master to main. That's like main is something a standard, a new way of maintaining the branches in GitHub. So, that's what I can suggest.
So you would propose that we go back and change all the masters to main, not just that we start using main going forward.
I mean, see, okay, I'm not GitHub admin expert. If it is not possible, then I think let it be master at few places and main at few places. That's fine. Because it's currently some mix.
It's doable. No,
It's very doable. It's just all the references that we'll have to track down over time.
Overall, Ajay, is doable, and that's kind of the main reason why I wanted to kind of just have a single name for the default branch. So as I mentioned in last week, it could be either or master. So I don't have any preference on that, but my only main point, it's going to make things easier for me if we have just a single default branch name. Based on last week, the opinion was to just keep masters, given that most of the repositories in the OMIC project are master, and also in the ONOS project, all of them are master. And I believe also in the Open Networking Lab as well, they are master. So that's why the main reason why to kind of keep everything on master. But again, I don't have any opinion. My main point would be to have just the same default branch name for at least for the entire OMIC project organization.
But that's, yeah, I mean, that's always challenging, right? Like in case you end up in cloning or forking out some other open source, you will have to inherit it, like whatever it is. It
Right.
can be like, we cannot rename all the time. I mean, since, okay, we are currently, all these projects we are owning and they're not forked, so it's fine. But keeping it consistent is going to be a challenge all the time.
Yeah. As suggested, this is the old master is the old way. By default, GitHub's default branch is now main.
Yeah.
Right.
So future
Yeah.
repos.
I mean, if you take a project, for instance, Honest project, it's got 84 repos. There have been no new repos added in like 12 months. I don't get what the point is in changing that to be main when everything on it has a branch of master. It just seems to be work for the sake of work.
Yeah, it's at the org level, exactly. And that's what I was saying. I mean, this is the issue that I see in the OMIC project organization, which is a mix of different things.
But that's always going to be there. I mean, the best thing is to keep it as is, but if you are going to rename, that's the preference, then we should not go back on master. We should use main, and that's what I can say. But again, I mean, this doesn't really impact anything for regular work. So I'm okay with any decision. But
Yeah,
going
and
back to
AJ
masters seems old. Yeah. Mhm.
AJ, what you just said is kind of the summary at the end of last week's discussion, which was it'd be nice if magically everything was changed to the same, but there wasn't a huge
We will
appetite for
all,
going
yeah.
up mass changing of it.
Yeah, and we'll always fork out new projects, so we cannot keep it consistent. That's important. So I think we should leave with the mix thing, Gabriel.
Oh,
Like
okay.
few on the main and few on master, so we can save some time. Yeah.
I just typed a group decision there, leave as is, and it will be mixed.
Yeah.
Expect to be mixed. Okay, Gabriel, Helm chart.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yes. So the purpose of this is I wanted to bring to the TST attention is right now when we do a deployment of the UPF, we always kind of assume like symmetry from the plugin perspective for the N3 and N6 interfaces. So right now I'm working on an internal project where I want to have one plugin for the N3 and a different plugin for the N6. I understand that from GS Lab, something that Suresh was mentioning, that they have a deployment where also they have different plugins for the different sites. So what I wanted to do is kind of like have separate plugins for both sides, such as to make it as generic as possible for this deployment instead of using a single plugin for both interfaces. And I wanted to kind of get your opinion on this and see if there is any okay, so I can do this and kind of integrate my internal changes into the generic or the open source Helm charts. so I don't have to keep necessarily track of two different Helm chart sets for the same thing.
I added a bullet here. I'm not sure if you're following the notes I'm taking. Is you'll be able to keep it. If you wanted them the same, it'll be trivial to do that, and that would be the default, right?
Say it one more time, please.
If you wanted them to be the same, that would not, you wouldn't be burdened by this, right? I mean, it would be it could be the default, and it would be no different than now. I mean, from the point there would be two variables or config options, but
Exactly. Instead of having a single variable, you have two variables basically.
And by default, they could be the same.
They could be the same, correct?
I mean, sorry, but by default, they are the same.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, but the point is to give the end user, you have different setups of deployments, and give the flexibility for the user to decide whether they want the same or different one. But by default, they should be the same values, yes, because at least that's the way that you use for on-ramp or Ether in a box.
Yeah,
but if you go into a little more complex deployments, then they don't have to be the same.
Yeah, yeah. Any objections to that?
So Gabriel, what are these plugins?
Any opinions or positions on this?
Gabriel, what are those plugins?
In my case, for the, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So for the entry, I'm using Mac VLAN, the same as. Yeah. So for the entry, I'm using Mac VLAN, the same as the typical that you are using on ramp, and for the N6, I'm using the host device. So because I'm attaching directly to the host to the interface. But the idea, it could be flexible enough. Suresh was mentioning, I think the GS Lab, they were using IP VLAN for one. And do you remember, Suresh, what was the?
I think it is a host device for one, and another one is IP VLAN or Mac VLAN. I forgot that, but yeah, it was two different things.
What was the core? I just wanted to record what you had said. The access side, you used Mac VLAN on
host
the core
device.
Host device. Host device, as far as I remember.
And apart from adding this extra option, you don't have any other changes?
No, that was the kind of the primary thing, to kind of split them aside individually. I have other ones, but they're extremely more sophisticated, more specific for this, so they are not generic enough. Host device, Larry, is a host dash device.
I mean, as see, UPF is forked. Like good number of people have forked UPF, right? As long as you keep it backward compatible with the default option, same on both interfaces, it is fine.
Yeah. No, I mean, default it should be Mac VLAN, right? So, but the idea is that you should be able to kind of override in this case, for example, this change should be exposed also to on-ramp, because we are trying to use on-ramp as our primary tool for deployment. And that's where we would like to have the capability, where the user can customize this part. But at the moment, it's not doable that from the on-ramp or the 5G.
Yeah. So I've added another bullet to the point, which is that we will eventually expose it in on-ramp, so you can. It's easy from there to change it.
That's the idea. Yes.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good as long as it's backward compatible. Next item, roadmap cleanup. AJ and Gabriel.
Maybe Gabriel, you can talk first.
Sure.
If there's any miss, I can take it.
Okay. So with Agile, we start kind of defining what would be the roadmap from two perspectives. One is from the 3GPP release upgrade, and the other one is from the perspective of feature updates. So this is something that Agile start putting together, at least the bullet points and some of the description, and then we start kind of taking a closer look into the different components. If you go all the way to the top, so as you can see there, bullet point number 1 is related to the 3GPP release upgrade. The 3GPP release upgrade has several components, starting with the service-based interface, SBI, sorry, the PFCP or N4 interface, and N1 and 2, and then GTPU related interfaces, N3, 6, and 9. From there, we cannot tackle basically everything at once, right? So as a first thing, we were kind of deciding we can start with a service-based interface as an initial point for the release upgrade. And in here, you know, we have downloaded the latest OpenAPI files from 3GPP. Something that we need to decide is whether we want to move to release 17 or release 18, or to what release we want to move, and based on that, how much back compatibility we're going to have. That's, you know, as a matter of time, if there's not too many people working on this, we can start basically with the SVI. Another point that we can work on is that is still under our control is the N4 interface, you know, PFCP part. That would be kind of like the next level of a release upgrade. And for that, I was kind of in discussions with Gisland to kind of help us with a few things on the PFCP, on the UPF task, which is related to the PFCP SIM. And there, we are planning to move to a newer version of Go PFCP. And why I'm bringing this up in here is because for the PFCP and the SMF, my understanding is that we are using a different PFCP package on the SMF side. So the idea would be to use the Go PFCP version on the SMF side, because in the UPF, we are already using that. So that will be kind of aligned to a newer version of the N4 interface. And from there on, we have the NAS and so N1 and N2 interfaces. Then we need to decide what is the priority on that. Some notes that I put in there regarding the SVI and the N2 interfaces is what is the process to get to the Go code or the Go structs at the end. So in my case, I was running some experiments with the SVI using the OpenAI software, and the output that I got from there, either release 17 or release 18, it's very different compared to the current structure that we have on the repositories. So, you know, it would be good to know what would be the process to kind of create this Go structure, get this Go code, such that the output is fairly similar to the output that we currently have in the repositories. Otherwise, we need to spend a little more time to kind of working on these changes. Something similar happened when I was experimenting with the N2. So N2, what I was basically following the procedure of, you know, I got the ASN files for release 15, 17, and 18. I convert them into proto files using ASN1C, and then I convert the proto files into Go. But again, the output of this was completely different to how the repositories are currently structured. At least we have this NGAP repository, and we have an upper repository. But the way how this Go code is created is completely different, and it completely ignores the upper repository. So if you guys have kind of like historical information on how this, you know, the code was created, that would be good to kind of try to align and get somehow similar output to the current output that we have in the either NGAP repository or for the SBI components. I'm going to skip for now point number 2 to let Ajay speak on that later, but I'm going to get to point number 3, which is the upgrade MongoDB and Kafka. Also, as part of the roadmap, you know, the idea is to move to the latest versions of MongoDB and Kafka. For the case as of this weekend, the latest versions were 15.6.7 for Mongo and 29334 for Kafka. So what I did is I updated the MongoDB version from 13.6.4 to 13.16.4, and Kafka from 20.04 to 23.07. And these are the latest new versions that I was able to move to without having to make any changes into the SD code Helm charts. To move to the latest versions, we need to start studying there. There are issues that need to be addressed with Mongo and Kafka, but I didn't want to spend that much time on that, so because lower priority. But at least we moved to some newer versions of both of those components. What else? Pro Agile, you can jump in now in the bullet points 2.4, and then I have a question for you regarding bullet point 6 and 5.
6 and 5. Okay, so 4 is around. Did you say 4 number?
No, then 2. You can start with the GNLB details.
Okay, I don't think we need to go in the details. So Larry, like if you see, like we have like big initial identified these 6 buckets of work, right? The
Yeah.
first bucket itself is big. Okay?
Yeah.
And we are trying to see like if we can get the SBI interface upgrade in this quarter, right? That itself would be a good achievement.
Yeah.
Right? And along with that, if I'm not wrong, I think somewhere Gabriel has mentioned that while doing this upgrade, we would fix any issues reported by community, right? So yeah, I mean that's how I would keep it simple. And
So-
if we
so
don't focus,
AJ, is there anything, what should we be doing to grow the set of developers here? Do you have any thoughts? I mean, people are using SD core. It is in many ways becoming the de facto open source mobile core.
yeah, okay, yeah.
So
I think while in
any thoughts?
ONF, yeah, in ONF at least there was a continuous effort to reach out to community, right? There used to be some updates or something, or maybe webinar, techinar used to be there periodic to engage community, right? Those things are missing now, right, Larry? So we have to do something to highlight that project is still active and people can come and contribute, right?
Right, because I think the other part, sorry, Ajay, but I think, we released the 1.4 like more than 3 months ago, and I don't think there has been any announcement, public announcement about it, right?
Yeah, correct. So yeah, frequent announcement or progress is something definitely required to attract at least users, right? Contributors, I think we do get some contributions based on as and when people are trying to use things and they find issues, right? We have seen contributions coming in the SCTPLB, AMF, GNODB areas, right? So.
So let's make note, Michelle is on, that we address this at the governing board level. I can tell you that Timon and I have been meeting with people at LF that are working to bring LF's, how to say it, energy behind SD core. It used to be split, that Magma was the LF's core. It is now, they are 100% behind SD core, committed to it. So there are some things that are starting to happen. It's just hard to see tangible outcomes of it, but I'm optimistic about it. But you are right that we do need to be more proactive in promoting what has happened and what is, what needs work.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, anyways, so to make sure that SD core remains relevant, the spec upgrade is the one of the important activity which we have to take. And the first spec upgrade itself, there are multiple portions, but I believe that if we can get the SBI interface done, then it would be a big achievement for this quarter, right? There's a possibility that we may be able to do other things also, but to keep the focus, right? So that we at least get done one thing, right? Otherwise, yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump around and do some things partially here and there, right? So it's better we just go in the order. So,
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I like your prioritization. It makes sense.
so and there are few smaller items which I think Gabriel had already touched to the Kafka and all, right? Those are that's good thing to do. Like since we're using these external components, we have to keep them updated, right? So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that update. I want to keep a tab on the time here so that we get down to the SD-RAN. So the Jira bullet.
Oh yeah, you can remove that. It looks like
Yeah, I was
I
guessing
was
that
not aware about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Ushan,
Hey.
tell us about SD-RAN.
Yeah, so first of all, GitHub Action. So it's almost done. So our engineering team actually created GitHub Action working one of our SD-RAN project. So without Jenkins, it could run the test, and also it could publish images as well. So it's almost done, and we are currently refactoring some GitHub Action file. So probably I think this week. They are currently busy for some other demo with ORAN specific things in Korea, but probably this week I think we can apply them to the SD-RAN project. So hopefully it'll be done this week.
Good.
And we are also studying some kind of scalable RAN simulator. So they are analyzing the current RAN simulator code. Well, actually, the current RAN simulator is quite complicated because it includes not only RAN side emulation code, but also it also includes kind of E2 message things as well. So they are a bit hard to understand how it works, but it's ongoing. And I asked them to implement the node NF, the small node NF functionality on the new scalable RAN simulator repository. So hopefully it will be done this week. This month, and hopefully we could deliver it for the next release cycle. So that is about the RAN simulator and dependency update. So the security tab in each SD-RAN repository, there is a dependable, and it raised a lot of PRs to ask updating some kind of Golang modules and Docker file, etc. So we are resolving it one by one. Since GitHub Action is not applied yet, so we could not make a branch or tag there for that for the resolving the dependency update. But since GitHub Action is almost ready, then I think once it's done, then we can jump into the dependency update things, and then we can update all our Go module, including SD-RAN components, one by one. So probably it'll be also done by this month, end of this month.
Good. So I want to make sure I interpreted that right, that all of the PRs raised by the Dependabot are
Yes, correct.
will be addressed most quickly once you have the GitHub Actions working.
Yes, correct. Because well, Dependabot raised some PRs, but
right.
It's also depending on other SD-RAN components as well. So
okay.
Yeah, we have to tag the leaf repository first, and then we can merge Dependabot's PRs one by one after the GitHub action is done. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
So how many? Can you remind us how many students you have? That are
so 5.
5.
Yeah, I'm working with 5 students. Yes.
Thanks. On-ramp update, Bala.
Hello. So we have been working on separate management node for on-ramp. So we have a notion of a management node where you clone your repository and make commands to install your 5G Go to another node or the same node. But what you're trying to do is that add a capability so that you don't have to SSH to your 5G node, you can do all kind of stuff of maintaining or managing your 5G node from the management node. Same. So what we have done is that we have added a spot where you can clone the local Helm charts from the management node and run commands and install local charts from the same node to the 5G node. There's one small task that I am going to do today is that we are going to copy the kubectl and Helm files so that you can run the cluster management commands from the management node as well for 5GC. But we have added a spot to install local Helm charts from the management node, and the PR it has been merged. The next task is the Docker install issues. So the issue was why if for GNODE nodes, if the machine already has installed Docker, and we try to install Docker using Ansible that we have provided, there was a repository issue with the Ubuntu. So I have fixed that. I have made a new installation commands that is following the latest instructions from the Ubuntu from the Docker documentation, and it's up to date with the latest commands from the Docker documentation. So it works out perfectly fine if whether the user has already Docker installed or not, it works out perfectly fine. Previously, it was giving some errors due to the flash for the keys of the repo. But yeah, it's fixed. Yeah, it's up to date with the latest Docker instructions.
Good.
Yeah, if anybody can, I guess Gabriel or Ajay, if you guys can test it and let me know if you see any problems, that would be helpful.
And thank you. And I'm just gonna put down here, working on proposal for incorporating scalable core into the on-ramp. And that it'll be a proposal before it's anything else. So there's some different degrees of freedom as to how to do that.
Yep.
Any questions for Law? And
I mean,
go
I
ahead.
did, yeah, I was using those data tests. I was struggling last 2 weeks. It started working, but I can tell for sure that there are occurrences where it doesn't work, or it works for few subscriber and some of the subscriber fail. So there's some issue with the data test. That's one observation I need to, and every time I have given the machine access to Bilal or Gabriel, they have said that it works, right? But I have seen it, it's not 100% reliable.
Yeah, okay. So Ajay, in that case, so I have two thoughts. When I was working on this, I also faced these issues in two scenarios. One is at some point, Docker is interfering with the Kubernetes cluster networking. It does to some extent. And for that, we had flushed out the IP rules. And I guess the one thing is to uncomment those Ansible commands where we flush out the IP rules. That's one solution. And another is if in your setup, if there are two cores that are running in the same network, like two UPFs have been installed. And in that case, we did see some networking error at the data plane, not at the core, but at the data plane, because we have if there are two UPFs, IPs are broadcasted or are introduced into the same network, then there is a confusion which data plane network to use. So if just asking if you have any two cores 5GC installed in the same network, that could be a problem. So these are two scenarios that I have faced these issues, and the fix is that yeah, one is to run the IP flush commands, and another is to make sure that there is only one instance of 5G core is running with UPF.
Okay, so in my case, definitely I was using only one UPF. The other one you said like flush, you mean like it's some make target I have to run, or?
No, we can discuss that offline if you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
But definitely, if I can access your exact system or any VM that you are working on, that would be a lot easier for me to dig down the problem.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
And Larry, I realized while working on this, right, like since we are using the data interface for the GNodeB data test, that also means that we cannot try the multiple GNodeBs getting simulated in the GNodeB sim, because now there's only one interface. And both would try to use port number 2152. So just an observation. I don't know if anybody is using multiple GNodeBs in the GNodeB sim.
We have run multiple GNodeB sims. And that would, by definition, each one would be a distinct GNodeB, right?
Yeah. And do you keep the same data interface for both the GNodeBs?
Yeah.
Yes, but we changed the port for each of the GNodeB. It's a different. Let me see. We have tested it.
You might have tested with the registration. It works because that SCTP can have any source port. But for the data test GTPU, the source port also has to be, I mean, source port can be anything, but any downlink packet coming from UPF to GNodeB SIM has to be on the destination port 2152. So anyways, so
Okay.
we can,
It's a good point. I can take a look into it. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm gonna make note, check multiple GNodeBs
For data plane.
for data plane. Yeah, thanks. All right, Kunal.
Yes, right. So, yeah, so we are working on uh, uh, automating Jenkins job using JJB. So this is going to be an end-to-end automation of Jenkins job using JJB. So the initial code commit was done, but as we discussed, we um, have to have a minimal or simple and a minimal code. So this code is, I mean, a lot of extra things were there. So because it's kind of a comprehensive code where we can create multiple branch jobs as well. So some more, you can say, um, things were also there where we can create. I mean, some functionalities can also be done using this code, but yeah, to keep it simple and minimal, I am going to remove a few things. I am going to streamline this code, and I'm working on updating the README so that we will have all these steps documented there, and it would be easier to anyone to replicate this concept.
Thanks. Let me know when you have the next
Mhm.
round of that. While we're on this general topic, and we do have Daph on the call, I know, Daph, you were recreating sort of clean slate several of the integration tests. Did you finish those? What's the state of that?
I have not finished them. I've got 2 machines that should do 7 of them set up. That can be shared across those items. I need to put them into place and get the existing ones replaced so that they're dynamic. Effectively, I'm trying to use EC2 on-demand machines rather than build machines up 24/7.
So I'm trying to capture the nugget here. The main thing that the way you look at it is what you're doing is you're making the definitions of the testing pipeline such that you can dynamically grab an EC2 image or a machine. From your
Correct.
point of view, it's the dynamic acquisition that's the key.
Yeah, basically it's just, let's see, I'm customizing the job as opposed to customizing the build machine.
Thank you. That's a good way of putting it. Thanks. And you've succeeded in several of the tests, but not all of them.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else on this or anything else on the full agenda? All right. Thanks, everybody. See you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Bye bye.
Thank you.